the last World of Warcraft video for the day, and then we're gonna go hardcore into League lore, 10-20 episodes, hopefully, and then some Final Fantasy MSQ. But anyways, if WoW tried to be Final Fantasy 14, it would fail. Let's go through the comments real quick, because that's how we do it on this channel. World of Warcraft storytelling had so far been at its best when it focused on world building. When was this? When did they ever do world building? You were a nameless hero in a big world full of factions and conflicts. Okay, it's a classic Andy. You could witness the occasional story from the sidelines, like the return of King Varian or the drama of Arthas and Jaina. When was this? Also, this is not world building. It's the same character development that Sylvanas got in BFA, except not really. But these are ultimately small stories in a big world. If Blizzard would remake the Burning Crusade now, it would probably be a character story centered around Maiev and Khadgar. Why? And it would probably also suck. Such a weird comment. The problem is that they kinda ran out of story threads from the RTS era. Those pulled the heavy weight of the world building and storytelling. Pretty much the world was built at that point. I mean, that's... Yep, as soon as they needed new villains, things start falling apart. Not to say Vanilla WoW didn't have interesting story beats as well. The early mysteries of Uldaman and the Emerald Dream or Nightmare were neat. But they never really did anything with them. Or when they did it in a completely uninteresting way. Yeah, basically all the world and story building outside of Wrath has sucked so far. It's just how it is. The only character they ever made that was interesting, who I, by the way, didn't like, so I don't really care about it, but the only character that was actually interesting ever that they made who was outside of what's called the strategy games was Garrosh. That's it. That was the only interesting character they've ever made outside of the strategy game that was actually interesting. They have... Oh, sorry, and the Nathrius, but the Nathrius doesn't make a lot of sense if you think about it. And that they had no cool characters. And honestly, I would say the Nathrius, the voice actor is what makes that character really good. Everything else is... Okay, they don't need to copy Final Fantasy 14, just be inspired by it. Blizzard's issue is nothing is planned and they can change direction of Warcraft's plot on a whim. Remember what they said about the Nathrius? He was planned to die, but they changed their mind due to his popularity. They altered the plot like it was nothing. Here's the thing though, if the Noozer really liked Game of Thrones... Oh wait, he liked season 7 and 8, right? He didn't like all of Game of Thrones? Because if he really liked Game of Thrones, he would have killed the Nathrius. Kind of like how Game of Thrones killed Eddard Stark at the beginning. Sorry, spoiler alert, episode 4 I think. But it's like, don't be afraid to kill a character that is loved. Just make sure there are more characters to love. FF14 doesn't do that, and it's one of the reasons it captures so many fans, because it's salt content, whereas Warcraft is flimsy and brittle and easily broken for whatever reason they can think of. I've been leveling a Blood Elf Paladin in classic BC Wrath, smart man. Not knowing precisely where to go next is so different from Final Fantasy XIV with the MSQ and from retail with the pre-selected sets of quests. I spent a couple of hours in Shimmering Flats doing quests that were almost too high because I wasn't sure where to go next. So right now I have a bunch of quests waiting in my quest log while I do some level 32 quests in Arathi Highlands. The strangest part is that I haven't done a single dungeon, which meant I'm almost geared off the auction house. No heirlooms and no poetics. I don't even know how you play the game, to be honest. But again, honestly, the game really sucks at letting you know what you need to do, so it is what it is. There's the story itself, and there's the presentation of that story. Blizzard has focused towards the latter and ignored the former for too long, using the rule of cool. It would go a long way for them to just have a concise story first, then find the cool moments within it to highlight. Well, they just go for cool without the build-up, so it's not even as cool. But anyways, let's watch the video and go back into where I belong in this world, watching League content.
Justin Russell, I feel like FF14 overdoes it with the narrative. So
yeah, just a little bit like we.
But before,
Sure
that's the thing, and that's why I wouldn't advocate that WoW should be FF, because Like, if FF tried to be WoW, it probably wouldn't work, and if WoW tried to be FF, it probably wouldn't work. They both have to learn the lessons from each other, but then apply them to themselves. And the true art is going to be in applying the lessons from a different game into our game. Because applying that knowledge, like, it is apples to oranges, those two games. So the knowledge has to be applied differently.
Yeah, I mean, even...
There's good principles.
You could argue that they're... World of Warcraft's already doing this a little bit because of the focus on improving their in-game cutscene tech to show more emotionality and actual character acting there. And that's what I've been praising FF14 for a lot recently, is like character acting leveling up and getting better and kind of going, okay, well, you've shown us, like as an example, in 6.2 MS.
I'm just gonna throw a wild guess there. This is where the WoW story is actually going. Remember the first ones from Shadowlands? They've been on Azeroth the whole time. Why? Fuck knows.
It's cool. They're like, here's a lingering camera shot on someone as they're going through an emotion, like a feeling. And there's all these different angles, and like you get to see them emote. You're like, okay, well, that's told me a lot about how that character's feeling right now without any dialogue in a couple seconds. And that's the thing that with their new in-game cutscene tech, they could very much do that in Dragonflight. Obviously, we haven't seen any of them, which is great. So maybe they will actually kind of show us more stuff like, say, how Alexstrasza emotes in reaction to hearing a bit of news about the Evokers.
Yeah.
Or, I'm trying to think what other characters are even involved. Or, when it comes to like the Malagos and Syndragosa stuff, if they can emote those two characters a little bit better, a little bit nicer, then that'll feel good. And that'll be more, oh yeah, well, we felt that story beat more. That's way stronger, way stronger.
You know what WoW does that Final Fantasy doesn't? Final Fantasy is not afraid to show emotion on their character, whereas WoW, it kind of like barely happens. Like, even look at like the Sylvanas cinematic when she talks to the fart of Arthas. It's like you can see some emotion, but it's not like super strong emotions like I tried to be you. It's like I hunted you and in the end I became you. Goodbye, Arthas Menethil. It's like, dude, in fucking Final Fantasy, that would be like a breakdown moment for the character. It's like, this is what was hunting me. This little fart. And like the character breaks down crying. All like WoW how WoW doesn't in game. Wow, I can't even speak. The way WoW shows emotion in game is like something along the lines of like, thank you, champion, for telling me the truth. Now leave me be. I need to be alone with my thoughts. And you never see the emotion on the character, right? You can assume the emotion, but you never actually see the emotion. It's like that's what they do. They send you away when they're like feeling bad or some shit. It's like so dumb.
That's exactly like that's the thing where they can take some of the ideas of here's some
for emotion.
Oh yeah, we see how you. We're not going to do what you do, but we see the skills and the techniques you employ, and we will use those, and that can go both ways. But I think that's kind of the key there.
Yeah, and Dark Souls says, kind of following up on FF, it's about intense. 6.2 has an hour trail off, but it's for character development. It's integral to the story. The plot may be filler, but the actions matter. And I think that is like maybe more the lesson for Blizzard. You can't do the characters just giving us the highlights. Yeah. And I think it's that feeling of epilogue, that feeling of follow through. That's really, really, really strong. It's why patch 9.2.5 of World of Warcraft, I think, went down really quite well, even though that was the epilogue patch to an expansion that many of the people who really liked 9.2.5, like myself, we basically hated Shadowlands.
Yeah.
And it was just quite cool that 9.2.5, by just giving us some epilogue, was able to do some good work. And I suppose that...
The only epilogue you got was memes. You got people, like, it became, instead of like a tragic story of another fallen hero, supposedly because he only did this for the greater good, like Arthas, right? The only reason it went down well is because it was just so hilariously bad that people just decide to make fun of it instead of just like get angry at it. That's the only reason it was good. That's
it. It's having the follow through. It's putting in that like little bit of extra effort. That's what I hope Blizzard are going to be able to do. Fun one from D5 again. What's the deal with Denathrius supposedly being the end boss of Shadowlands, with the jailer as a fall guy and then wanting justice for being unfairly blamed? You see, I've heard so many versions of a similar rumor.
Yeah.
I've heard a version of this where the Archon of the Kyrians was actually the intended big bad of Shadowlands and the jailer was a fall guy. I've heard a version of this where it's that whole thing about like the jailer and the rune carver.
Yeah, the rune carver, yeah.
And all of that stuff where basically, and the Primus even, where it looks like the Primus was originally different, and like the jailer was the Primus, and honestly, it's all very confusing. And it does, I mean, to me, it feels like Shadowlands was just a bunch of like disparate ideas they somehow coagulated into the thing that we got, but it seems like the thing that we got was like the fastest, easiest to get away from, even though it had massive implications for the lore, version of that story. Like, who knows, maybe there is a version of Shadowlands that's 3 patches long that includes the Drust. Yeah, that includes the Drust, has the jailer be, you know, not the big bad, has a little bit of, like, intrigue within the Pantheon. The idea of there being intrigue, though, like, it totally is there. I mean, look at the way that Denathrius speaks at the end. So, yeah, the idea of Denathrius kind of, like, running his own schemes, well, that's it, right? Like, I think most of us will agree that Shadowlands was pretty shit from a narrative perspective, but I also think most of us would agree that Denathrius was a pretty good villain. So even
Denathrius was a really good character, mostly because of the voice actor. He barely got any lines, though. He was the obvious villain. He was, was Dread Lord villain. But it's kind of like how you kind of tend to like Tichondrius as a villain as well. It's that whole suave, It's like, I'm evil. Yeah, baby, I'm evil. Right? It's like, it's the suave. Oh my god. But it's like, yeah, you get that. You used to get that with Tichondrius, like the full of himself type thing, right? Tichondrius in Warcraft 3, he was just full of himself. It's like, I love Tichondrius as a villain in Warcraft 3, right? He's just like, yeah, come at me, bro.
Shadowlands. I'm not unhappy that
I didn't like when he got defeated and he's like, what? How?
This currently is at large. Because that's the thing with Denathrius, he's at large.
Yeah.
He's escaped.
Yep.
With his Dreadlords.
Yep.
So, yeah. Davis Druid, if Galakrond was corrupted by old gods, wouldn't that mean all aspects have bits of old god corruption since they were given his power by Tyr? They were given Galakrond's power?
No, that's not what happened. But didn't they feast on Galakrond though? Or something like that? No, they just defeated him. Yeah, I don't think they got Galakrond's power at all. They got aspect power. Like, they got some aspect power from the Pantheon passed down to them.
I'm fairly sure it was just they, like, clean, bait the fuck out of Galakrond. I don't think they took his power. Like, well, their power comes from the aspects.
Yeah, no, they just fired a boulder in his throat and choked it in.
Yeah, that's what.
Which is a pretty embarrassing way to go, Ben.
Yeah, he was just full of boulder. But the thing about Galakrond and the old gods is, like, there's stuff could certainly make sense of Galakrond and old gods, but there's just weirdness about Galakrond.
Yeah.
It doesn't match anything particularly, and the fact that they haven't matched it particularly to anything makes me think they have different plans. It's the idea of there was many opportunities to go, it was Yogg-Saron the whole time, because obviously Yogg's right there, death magic, god of death, all that stuff lines up, but they never did that. Yeah. Which to me implies that they're going to do something else.
He's almost had this, like, bizarre not necromancy. It's not undeath, it's not living. Like, he's just the ways that he's described are a little bit different in a way that's, like, trying to be unsettling. Which I think...
I still can't believe that Yogg and... what's his name? What's the name of the eye guy? Yogg-Saron, Y'Sharj, N'Zoth, and What's the eye guy in Ankiraj? Either way, let's just talk about Yoxron because I don't remember the other guy's name. But I can't believe that Yoxron is actually dead. We pretty much blew up a pimple of Yoxron. Yoxron is the size of Northrend. We could not have killed him in Old War. That makes no sense.
It actually does mean the Galakrond could be a really, like, a pretty good villain. I don't think he's going to be a deep character, but you can have a tremendous threat that itself is not a deep character. Hopefully there are deep characters in and around the situation, of course. But I think whatever Galakrond is, it could push the canon forward in a way that could be really satisfying, especially if it is being tied into, you know, Morazon and all these time things and what it means for the dragons. Yeah, that could be cool. Okay, Stoji, are we going to get a crossover dungeon like a Diablo-themed armor or StarCraft secret raid piece or something? You see, that's a fun idea, and me and Matt have talked about this quite a bit before. No. Some of the content in Final Fantasy XIV that people really enjoy is a crossover with Nier. Mm-hmm. So the idea of Blizzard doing one of these, and like I think Blizzard, they wouldn't even have to have it overtly be in universe. They could just do it.
Well, they did the Diablo thing crossover when Diablo was released, right? So that's something.
As an event for a bit of fun. They don't need to go to the effort that they went, to with the Nier stuff.
Yeah, I think that's cool. It's weird. I think that's a little bit more of a staple of a lot of.
I can't believe they still don't have Hearthstone inside of World of Warcraft, though. That makes no sense. Like, something to play at inns. So there's like a reason to have inns in the cities. Because right now, inns are pretty much empty. But it's like, imagine you go to like an inn, you sit at a table and you play Hearthstone.
Asian properties really kind of go, here's a crossover, because they really super value crossovers a lot.
Yeah.
I think the West is maybe waking up to that because it's working so well with Fortnite.
Yeah, it's fucking great.
But that's the thing of like, the importance of IP is super king. Yep. So the more they do that of just like, hey, here's some stuff, and even, because I assume you're talking about internal kind of crossover stuff with their own IP.
Yeah.
They definitely should be going for like even external stuff. Literally just get everyone on the phone, especially if they're going to be under the Microsoft umbrella and they have they won't literally, but theoretically internal desire. We're like, here, or like a little dial. It's like, I just press the button to get to the Halo boys. Hello, can we have John Halo in Warcraft, please? We'll sort that out next week. Yep, sweet.
We have given Steve the Covenant.
Yeah.
The Covenant are now in World of Warcraft.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's the thing where, like, I think people generally... I think it's hard to do that stuff really well and, like, not get it feeling just for the sake of it. But I think it's, like, it just works. It just works for most people. They're like, hey, yeah, wait.
Well, Final Fantasy and Nier, it wasn't even just like a crossover. That was like a full-out allied raid, which no one ever expected, probably. It was like out of nowhere. Like, I can only imagine you finish your MSQ during, 5.0? And then it's like 5.1, you get revealed that the allied raid is actually Nier Ultima. It's like, what the fuck?
Two things I like? Or one thing I like? What's this new thing? Oh, I like that too. Wow, what a fucking deal.
You would quadruple the sales of the next Forza game if you could have the world famous Azeroth choppers.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's good.
They could do it.
Yeah,
oh, dear. Cool. This was a good one, Femna Bunny. Sometimes I want to see Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Other times I want Big Trouble in Little China. I love both in equal measure. Absolutely. Watch Kung Fu Hustle. Kung Fu Hustle is a damn good time.
Yeah. I need to watch Sheldon Shocker.
I need to watch all of, what's he called? Stephen
Chow?
Stephen Chow. Yeah, I need to watch his stuff. He's talked them up well to us.
Kung Fu Hustle, Stephen Chow. Is this supposed to be a good movie? It's the trailer. Let's see. Oh my god. The woman. Let's see what this is about. Wild West Kung Fu. Slap. Gangs versus landlords. Slapped. What the fuck? What the fuck is that? Oh shit. It's like a manga movie. The soundtrack is fantastic, man. How old is this movie? 2005. Holy shit, almost 20 years, huh? God damn. Alright, yeah, maybe I'll watch it later. I don't know. It looks really fun. Anyways, that's the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.